The holidays are supposed to be a season of warmth, light, and connection, but for millions of people, this time of year does not spark joy. It sparks pain, and the numbers tell the truth we rarely say out loud. According to the American Psychological Association, 38% of people say their stress increases during the holiday season, while only 8% feel less stressed. More than 40% of adults experience deeper loneliness in December, and people dealing with trauma or loss report a 60% increase in emotional triggers between Thanksgiving and New Year's. So if the holidays feel harder for you, you are far from alone, my friends. You are living a reality many people silently walk through. Today, on the You Only podcast, we're talking about When Holidays Hurt by Bo Stern. This book names this truth. The holidays don't stop being painful just because the calendar tells us they should be joyful. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for sharing me, and thank you for giving me a 5-star review on Spotify or on YouTube. I have a TikTok page. Thank you, everybody, for joining this podcast. I appreciate all the new followers. You mean so much to me, and hopefully you'll enjoy When Holidays Hurt by Bo Stern, because this book is really transformational. And this time of year is one of the hardest times of the year here in the United States, because all the prisons across America are on lockdown right now. They go on lockdown because the suicide rates go up. That's alarming because it tells us that there are a lot of traumas and illnesses in there. But think about the people who aren't locked up and or have to live through it, because I believe statistics say 70% of people's grief sets in a week before any kind of special moment comes. So that is alarming. And be gentle with yourself this holiday season. You Only star author Bo Stern.
And I wonder how you're feeling about Christmas this year. Sometimes the holiday seasons are easy and sometimes they're hard. My family understands that. We've been through 3 years dealing with my husband's terminal diagnosis with ALS, and sometimes it's really difficult to set a course for a good holiday season. And so if that's you, I have a challenge for you today. Even if that's not you, I have a challenge for you today. And the challenge is to fast. And I'm not talking about food, I'm talking about fasting negativity and complaining. It's a fast of words. Proverbs says that life and death are in the power of our words. And so if you were willing to just take the next day and say, I am just not going to complain, and I am going to instead feast on gratitude and feast on worship. It's not about repressing your emotions. It's about saying, I want to reorient my thinking to the goodness of God. I want to set the tone with my words, knowing that my emotions will probably follow along. I think it's going to make a change for you, and I think it'll make a change in the people around you as well.
I want to talk a little bit about Bo Stern's life story. It's deeply emotional and inspiring because her husband was diagnosed with terminal ALS, and I'll talk about that a couple times on this episode. It became a significant and painful battlefield for their family. Despite this hardship, she embraced a raw and honest perspective about grief, hope, which profoundly influenced her writing. Her book, When Holidays Hurt, Finding Hidden Hope Amidst Pain and Loss, offers an intimate look into navigating holiday seasons when facing terminal illness in the family. Stern has courageously shared her family's journey through this dark valley, balancing grief with moments of intentional joy and faith, often discussing the sacredness of her relationship with God during that time. Her transparent vulnerability has helped many others find resilience and light in their own suffering. So that's kind of why I chose this book, because it was a really good read, and it also, tied a lot of my other episodes together, I felt. And I thought it might help a lot of my fans and followers to get through the holidays and maybe give them something to think about that could give them encouragement and give them a little more grace. But here's the message I want you to hear today. Hurt does not erase your worth. Pain does not make you broken. You are not failing the season. The season is simply shining a light on wounds that deserve gentleness. Be gentle with yourselves. This book teaches a powerful principle also. Pain and hope can sit at the same table. You don't have to choose one or the other. You don't have to pretend everything is fine. And you don't have to collapse under the weight of what hurts, even though we feel we will at any moment. There are a few truths from the book and from research that can guide us through tough holidays. Here's one. Your nervous system remembers what you survived. And I also did an episode by Bessel van der Kolk called The Body Keeps the Score. If you've never read that book, check that one out or go back and check out my episode. It's really good. But trauma researchers at Harvard found that familiar sights, smells, and rituals can trigger stored memories, even ones we haven't processed. So if certain songs, traditions, or family expectations send a shock through your body, that's not weakness. That's survival. It's an instinct. Your body is trying to protect you. So that's your amygdala, fight, flight, fawn, freeze response. Then your hippocampus trying to lie to it, to influence it to think things that aren't true. Here's another one, the second one. Grief does not follow the holiday schedule, everybody. Grief spikes by up to 70% during special dates, anniversaries, and holidays. But healing isn't about getting over it. It's about learning to breathe inside of it. And a lot of times we're in situations where someone else is outwardly showing aggression. That is a time too that we just need to be inside of ourselves and have complete control of our person, because it always takes maturity to outperform impulse. So healing isn't about getting over it. It's about learning to breathe inside of it. You deserve the permission to feel what you feel without apology. And that's a normal human right. Here's a third one. You can create a holiday on your own terms this year. This season does not have to look like the one you grew up with, especially if that season was filled with chaos, abuse, or fear. Research shows that people who intentionally design harmful traditions experience a 45% increase in emotional stability during the holidays. You can choose peace, you can choose quiet, you can choose something new. And that's what each and every one of us must do. We must protect our peace. We must choose to sit quietly and be okay inside of ourselves, because we came into this world alone and we're going to leave alone. And understanding these things is only going to empower you to get through the holidays that much easier. Here's the fourth one. Helping someone else heal something inside you. Studies show that acts of generosity, not gifts, but kindness, reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety by up to 25%. Giving hope to someone else doesn't erase your pain, but it softens the edges. And I feel like when I allow my kindness to come through to other individuals every single day of my life, it heals the abuse, the trauma, the tragedy of my life. That it heals past thoughts and memories that once plagued me to the bone. Here's a fifth one to think about. Hope grows in small, almost invisible ways. Hope isn't always loud. Sometimes hope is getting out of bed when grief says stay down. Sometimes It's answering the text you nearly ignored. Sometimes it's choosing to breathe through a moment instead of breaking under it. Every small step is proof that you are still here. You are still alive. You are still trying. You are still healing. When holidays hurt, remind us that you do not heal by pretending the hurt isn't there. You heal by honoring it and choosing to move with it, not against it. And that's what I've done my whole life. And people always like, after all that stuff you've been through, how do you function? And I say easily. I just moved through it and I healed by not allowing the outside world in my inner space of peace and love and joy that God gave me. My light was not being, uh, you know, put under a globe so somebody else's ideologies could perverse societal norms. I'm sorry, but God protected me for a reason. You know, at an early age, I went through so much. People don't understand. And it's, and my holidays in the beginning were great, you guys. They really were. I had the most wonderful upbringing because I was raised with six brothers and sisters that, obviously, my aunts and uncles, that were all about kids and the holidays and having a good time. And every year, my uncles had to put their names in a hat. And whoever played Santa the year before got to draw the name out of the hat. So each of my uncles took turns over the years playing Santa Claus. And boy, did they ever put on a show. Usually my aunts would, perfect the costumes throughout the year. And one year in the 90s, In Living Color had a character named Homie the Claus. I think it was one of the Wayans brothers. And his thing was he dressed up like a clown, but Santa Claus, and he had a sock. And if he didn't like something you said, he would hit you with the sock and say, "Homie, don't play that." Well, in the 90s, my family thought that was just outrageously hilarious. So my uncle, he wanted to be Homie the Claus his year for Santa, and my mom was a makeup artist, so she did his makeup. She gave him a wig. He got a big sock, and I remember he smacked my grandma so hard with the sock, her glasses flew across the room. It was either him or my sister. I can't remember who hit my grandma, but I remember her glasses flying off. But some of them were, it was just some of the greatest moments of my life, My uncle, that same uncle would always have like a pocket full of silver coins or bars and money in the other, and he'd be giving to all the kids, and there'd be tons of food, and everybody would be happy, and music would be playing. I can remember walking up to that house with 2 feet of snow on the ground and it being a full moon because the party never started until 6 p.m. We usually stayed until 2 or 3 in the morning. And it was every year from, 1985 to 1998, I think, because that family, they were a competitive group and they had to be because I feel like their parents showed favoritism. And well, that wound up dispersing. They wound up all kind of getting at each other later because they were so competitive. And if you don't know anything about being competitive, competitiveness actually ruins a lot of things. And if you sit down and get still and calm and think about how things work and how competing really kills things and hurts things, look at business. When businesses compete, look at all the businesses that close, that are little with all these big, huge corporations. That's a way to look at relationships in life, too. Thank you guys for listening to the You Only podcast. When holidays hurt, reminds us that you don't heal by pretending the hurt isn't there. You heal by honoring it and choosing to move with it, not against it. So if this holiday season feels heavy, if you're grieving a person, a childhood, a dream, or the version of yourself you lost along the way, please know this. You are allowed to take the season slowly. And sometimes it's important to do that, but you got to remember, start breaking yourself into it. The moment September ends, you better start marching slowly in the direction of getting ready for the emotions that are coming. And you are allowed to protect your peace. And that's something a lot of us don't do anymore because we've allowed outside influences to interject into our interlocus of control, and it disrupts our peace. And it's the holidays. We need to be peaceful during this time and give thanks to the ones we've loved and help the ones that helped us get here and make us who we are. And you're allowed to create a holiday that fits the person you are becoming, not the pain you came from. And I feel like the pain I came from has really made me fight on to be a much better person and a much more understanding person. And most importantly, you are allowed to hope again. Not because everything is perfect, but because even in the middle of hurt, there is still a spark inside you that refuses to die. That spark is you healing. That spark is your strength. That spark is you. And thank you all for listening to the You Only podcast. And I want to tell you a little bit more about the author. The emotional depth of Bo Stern's story lies in her acknowledgement of fierce personal battles. You know, her husband had ALS. That, could you imagine, being her? That would be, I couldn't imagine being with a spouse that would contract something like that, even though it could happen at any moment. Wishes the suffering away, she was also seeing immense value in the lessons and intimate faith developed through those hard seasons of her life. Her experience invites others to confront their own struggle while holding on to hope and God's sustaining love, offering a raw but comforting witness to brokenness and healing. Bo Stern's life and work speak powerful about enduring hardship and faith. And I think that the things that happen to me in life speak volumes about hardship and faith as well, because I would not be where I am today had it not been for my dad making me go to church every Sunday. And that's what all it was, is that I used to sit in my room as a kid in my closet by myself because, I didn't trust them people. They were abusive. So all I ever did was read the Bible every single day and try to understand it from a little kid's perspective, even though I really lived in fear all the time because I knew God was constantly watching me. And that's what kept me, on the straight and narrow until, I obviously was a derailed train, because I also did that in my life too, and I fell away. And if you don't think baptism's powerful, let me tell you, it is. When I was 17 years old, my cousin had gone. He was a drunken and drug addict till he was 26. He said he woke up one day and was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I mean, he was one of the most powerful dudes. He could bench 400 pounds 10 times. He was huge. And he was a short dude. His shoulders were as wide as he was tall. But he wound up giving it all up and giving his life back to God. And once he graduated from I forget what you call it, seminary school. I can't think of the name of it, but he wound up baptizing me in the Vermilion River. And we went to our favorite fishing spot, and we got out in the water, and he said a verse from the Bible, put me under the water, and he brought me up out of the water. And I'm telling you, I instantly felt energies I'd never felt, and he held me by my face, and he said, look at me in my eyes. And I was, and he said, now you're going to have to fight for your life, man. He said, I'm serious. The devil's going to come after you. It's going to be 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years. And it was no joke, you guys. The next day, I was tripping on acid and doing drugs with these kids. They dosed me. I had no idea, but it changed my life forever, and I instantly started backsliding with those kids, away from God. And the devil came instantly. And I didn't know how to fight, because I knew the Bible inside and out. I had memorized all the verses. I knew them. I was in Awanas. I had gotten like third in the state of Illinois in 8th grade, and Bible memorization or something. I can't remember, but yeah, and it was tragic, and that's what started my life into a tailspin of partying. But I would be praying through it too, trying to get better. But it was all the chaotic abuses and situations that a little person is still really a little person, and they're not maturing. They're living on impulse of human natural survival, and that's what happens to a lot of young men in America. And so, obviously, once that happens to you, you go through the holidays and you get these certain kind of feelings that, could be suicidal, that could be painful, that could be so depressing you can't get out of bed the whole month of December, like my best friend growing up. He was bad, and it was interesting. He was an interesting spirit, but he was a good spirit. Thank you guys for listening to the You Only podcast, and hopefully you enjoyed this read. And hopefully this holiday season, you'll be tender with yourselves. We all need a little TLC this time of year. You ain't alone. You're kind. You're beautiful. Each and every one of us out there is entitled to our own individuality, our own personality. And there is one trait about you in this world out of 7 billion people that stands out and makes you different. And they call that a star. They always want you to thank your dust upon this earth. But just as many stars are in the sky, each one of those stars represents one of us here. And as you look at the stars, just know they're mirroring you, and they see you too. And I see you, and you're beautiful. Happy holidays. And I love you guys.